I said, I do the Adopt to Stop project, and I've been involved with planting trees along the highway for a number of years. That's been keeping me busy. So, sustainable tourism development. For me, that means that projects which are good for Barbadians and good for visitors should be prioritized. They should be easy on the environment and easy on the government's pocket. Now, we are not here tonight to stand up and philosophize about sustainable tourism development. We're not here to pontificate about it. What we want to do is we want to put ideas on the screen. We want to put projects in front of you that we think epitomize the principles of tourism development and are also consistent with the pillars of the change. So up front and central in that is going to be the Barbados Trailway. This promises 16 kilometers of dedicated bike trail right through the middle of the island, from Buckley Factory all the way to Concept Bay. Nice. I'm so fired up about this project, okay? I have to tell you. It appeals to me on a lot of levels. It appeals to me on a professional level because I think that it is ticking all the boxes in terms of what we want to talk to you about tonight. But it also appeals to me on a deeply personal level. Some of you will know my dad was involved in a very bad accident about 10 years ago in my workshop. As a result, he lost all the hearing in one ear and about half in the other. And he's a triathlete and a marathon swimmer. He still swims, but biking is problematic. Okay? It does not have to be that way. But we all, here tonight, have a role to play in improving the situation because the roads in Barbados are just too dangerous. It doesn't have to be that way. What I'm suggesting, we're going to put ideas on the screen. We're approaching you in an open source way, free way. What we are asking in return from you is simply your feedback and your advocacy. Together, we can make a project like this happen. I'm going to hand over to Tara Inniss, Gibbs, my wife and collaborator on the project, to fill you in on some of the details.
All right. Well, I have my notes. All right. Thank you for inviting us. This is quite an opportunity for us. This is the first time that we're talking about some of these projects that we've been mulling around in our heads for a little while, and we have a little group going as well as some others who have been working on some of these projects. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context and to say that the provision of recreational spaces can be considered, for me, the last frontier of social policy and development in post-independent Barbados. Over the last 50 years, we have seen Barbados evolve from a colony where undernutrition, high infant and child mortality, and low educational attainment prevailed to a country that now boasts free education, free or affordable healthcare, and although the high incidence of chronic non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease threatens to reverse these achievements, especially with the exponential growth in the cost to treat them. As a small island developing state, Barbados is not in a position to feasibly expand our shoreline or grow our land resources, nor can we ignore the threats of epidemic disease and low investment in our human resources, as well as the threat of climate change. Therefore, sustainable development in the Barbadian context must mean that we utilize existing physical resources, both cultural and natural, while also investing in the health and wellness of our people, both visitors and locals, while also preparing for the mitigation of and adaptation to climate change. So this presentation seeks to highlight at least 3 fiscally and socially responsible tourism development projects that can help to diversify and enhance our tourism product, while also providing recreational spaces that both locals and visitors can enjoy. not only now, but also for future generations. So all of these projects should satisfy these principles of sustainable tourism development. Okay, so they all reuse existing resources. They all deal with maximizing community development and maximizing the returns for communities. So we spoke about the trailway, but we didn't want to just give you one flagship idea. There's some other ideas that we could work on too, like the Newton Enslaved Burial Ground, which is a little known aspect of our heritage offering on the island. It's currently managed by the Barbados Museum and Historical Society, and we have brought visitors there before. I take my students there at least two groups a year, and they're always so completely devastated by the fact that not more is done with the space. It is an open space. It is a place for quiet reflection. It is a place where we can interact with this part of our heritage, and yet we do not make the most of it, make it available and accessible for Barbadians and even visitors as well. So Kevin is going to talk a little bit about that. If we have time, we'll talk about these windows to the sea and how they can be achieved. It is difficult. It's political. You know, you're not guaranteed a view. Nobody ever wrote that into town planning legislation. Nobody's guaranteed a view. But yet it is such an important part of our culture and identity to have access to viewing the sea and having access to beach spaces. So this is something that perhaps we'll get to, and Barney will speak about that a little bit later. But let's just talk a little bit about the Barbados Trailway. The Barbados Railway started in about 1881. It stopped functioning in about 1937. And in fact, all of the infrastructure for the railway was sold off. And by 1938, there was basically nothing there for us to see except for the existing rail bed. I don't know how many of you go on the Great Train Hike. Has anybody gone on the National Trust? Right. So this is a train line that started in Bridgetown and ended in Belplain. The part that we're talking about is from Buckley in St. George. I'm seeing somebody from Buckley in St. George. To Concept Bay. And this goes through the industrial heart, or the former industrial heart of Barbados. So we're not asking government to go and or destroy the environment. This is a space that has actually been formerly occupied by an industrial space. And you'll note that rail-to-trails have happened all over the world, and particularly in North America and the UK. And they use rail lines and railway reserves, and these form very ideal pathways for walkers, runners, and cyclists, because the trail is actually compacted already. So you don't have to do a lot of infrastructural work to change the grading of the roadway, etc. We have tried to put the project together. It is in a format that has been presented to government, to the Ministry of Tourism. We have some support. Unfortunately, with the fiscal environment the way that it is, it's hard to pull your pocket for a project like this, apparently. So what we are hoping to do is develop a little community support for it, just at least get people thinking about some of these ideas. Instead of putting up big hotels on our coastline, let's think about how we can enrich the product that we have already. People want to come and stay in hotels, but what are they going to do outside of the time that they're at their hotel or their restaurant? Okay. So, as I said, it would be a trailhead from Buckley and St. George to Concept Bay. It would also have access to water, shelter and rest stops, and some picnic areas, and also interpretive heritage signage. It is a very good opportunity to educate the public, educate the visiting population with a little bit of interpretive signage. What was the railway about? What is the community you're passing through? What was that about? You know, when you go through Three Houses, talk about the Amerindian settlements that was located in that area. When you're going down into Concept Bay, talk about a little bit about the fishing heritage. There are opportunities to help interpret Barbadian culture and nature, because we can talk about a little bit about some of the natural environments as well. The trail would run along established Crown-controlled railway reserve. As Barney said, it's about 16 kilometers in length. It would probably take about 21 months to complete. Maybe in Barbados that would take a little bit longer, but we're being ambitious. So this is a Google Earth map, so you can see precisely where it goes. Now this is not the whole length, and the reason why we don't want to do in this first phase the whole length is that the part from Concept Bay to roughly around St. Martin's Bay or sorry?
Like Glenburnie?
Yeah, by Glenburnie. It's a very natural area, and that is actually part where the railway was eroded. It would probably be better if this was developed as a hiking extension, and then maybe if you pick up the railway through a cycle trail, either on a green line or a bicycle line lane that can take you the rest of the way, and then also through Bashaba to Balaplain, you can just go on the road, which is actually the original alignment. Okay, so this is what it could look like. This is what Buckley Factory looks like now.
Nice.
A little paved surface, some bike riders, a little shelter that you can see in the background, a few trees, some landscaping. Not so much. It's not going to be a manicured space, but it is going to be something that is accessible, that you can have shade. All of the shelter spaces will be designated at the original stops. You know, there were stops along the line, so these shelter spaces would designate these kinds of stops as well. The really, really great thing about this project is that, I think I have it on the next slide. No, not this slide. Next slide I have it on. It actually passes through and passes by some existing facilities, like for example the NCC, Three Houses facility, the park facility there. So you won't have to put in a lot of washrooms, and that's already there. So you can actually come off, go use the washroom at some of the existing facilities. At Carrington, at Buckley, you can do the same thing. So you wouldn't have to put in a lot of services or utilities, which is often the problem in doing a lot of development projects. So I'm just going to take you through a little journey along the railway. Only 3 minutes, but we'll see if we can set that up.